4. Equation of a line. Okay? So what we're going to do, I'm going to turn off the lights. Is that better for you? Is that bad for you guys, those who aren't watching? And I'm blind. Is that okay, Miss George? Okay. Anyways, got the lights up. Any equation of a straight line could be given as y equals mx plus b. This is the equation we will see quite a bit in this course. You'll see it a lot in your foundations course too, just incidentally. Okay, now it doesn't make any sense to you probably at this moment, so we're going to figure out what this is. This letter m we use to signify it's the slope, and we've been doing that in the last section, right? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's whatever fraction or number you get for the slope you put in there. And b is called the y-intercept. A little aside here, x and y are the variables you usually use. You don't have to use x's and y's. If it makes more sense, if you're talking about marbles and popcorn, use m and p. Anyways, I want to make sure that my mic, yeah, it is on. Okay. So what's the y-intercept though? This letter b represents the number that gives the point at where it crosses the y-axis. The y-axis is the up and down axis. So like this would be the b value if it was +3 or wherever it is. I'll show you as we need to. So first we're going to start with easy ones. Direct linear relations. That's when the y-intercept or that b value is 0. Okay? B is 0. And they are easier. Later on we'll get into ones where the b isn't 0. They are the simplest equations. Y equals 5x. Now I want to just show you something here. Remember I said y equals mx plus b up above? Well, x and y are the variables. That's the variable, that's a variable. What is your slope if you look between here, mx and 5x? What does it tell us our slope is? Not that I asked you for it, but it's 5, right? So I'm going to just write this, and I'm going to suggest you write this down. The slope is equal to 5. Just how do we relate this? Because this is something new. Now it also says plus b, mx plus b, the y-intercept. If there's no number given here, it's 5x plus what? 0, so nothing, right? So really and truly in this case, and I even said it above, I just scrolled it up, that the b value is equal to 0 in this case because there isn't one, right? Okay. I'm going to reread the problem. I just want to talk about what y equals 5x is. It's the equation. Calculate the values for y for the integer values from x, from -2 to +2. When I say integers, I'm talking negatives and positives, but no decimals or fractions, okay? So we're going to go from -2 to +2. So that's my t-chart here. I'm going to say, well, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And keeping in mind that in this case, y is your 5x, right? So just in your head, do the math. Tiana, you see where we're getting this here, the 5x? -2 is the x, so 5 times -2, -10. I'll write it out for this one here, but we're just saying, but you wouldn't normally have to. You say 5 times -2, -10. But you can just do this in your head, but in case Tia, when she looks at this tomorrow, she's like, what? So 5 times -1, 5 times 0, 5 times 1, 5 times 2. I'll pause for a second, get your t-chart completed, and then we're going to graph the dots and make sure that they connect. Now, is there any questions about what I just ran through? Fairly straight ahead? Okay. Let's graph. I'm going to use blue for my graphing dots. So I'm going to go to -2 on my graph. So x-axis. By the way, I'm going to label this here. This is my x-axis. This is my y-axis. On the x-axis, I'm going to count, -1, -2. So I'm starting here for my x, and my height is -10. Well, that's the top of the line here. So that's where I'm going to make my dot here. I said I was going to use blue, but I'm actually going to use green now, just so it shows up. Okay? And then at -1. What the heck? Why did you guys stop me? Did you think about this? Why Shindaku went to minus? Yeah. It is -2 on the x-axis, right? But I have to drop 10. I forgot. This is -10. I even said that, I think. There's where I have to go. Down. So I'm going to... Oh. Delta. You know better. Okay, there we are. -10. Then -1 and -5 for the depth, the y. So find -1 on the x. Find -5 on the y. And then graph that spot. That dot. 0 and 0, that's easy. It's right dead center. 1 over on the x, up 5. And 2 and 10. Now, join it with a straight line. I will use mine because it looks like it, and yes, it is a linear equation. And before we move on, I want to just get you to notice one more thing. You take a look at this. Oh, wait. Okay, good. Now, just take a look at this. You know, the easiest spots to read are the ones on the corners, and I happen to have green dots there. I don't care which one you start at, so I'll start at, say, this one here. If I count from here to here, that's a rise of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. That's my slope. Like, when I said my slope is 5, that means rise over run. The 5 over, and you remember how if you don't have a fraction, you can always make it a fraction by saying it's out of 1? So that's what this means. 5 over 1. Up 5 over 1. Up 5 over 1. Do you see how that works? Over and over again? Just so you're learning what slope means. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. I'm going to flip the page. So how do you find the equation when your b value is 0, when it goes through that middle 0, 0 spot? Well, let's think. This is a good example. If Katrina earns $12.75 per hour, if you work 0 hours, you should have 0 pay, right? So we know 0, 0 is appropriate for this scenario on this graph. Make a table of values showing her earnings from 0 to 5 hours and draw a graph of the data. $12.75 per hour. So, should we write it down and, you know how we said instead, you know how I said instead of x, instead of y. Now, x would be like your hours, right? Your time. So I'm going to put in hours on my t-chart, and my y, pay. I think you guys liked using p for pay the last time. And pay is really just $12.75. Times the hours worked. So you guys come up with your 0 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come up with your chart. I'll give you a little bit to do that. Not too long. Just multiply by 1, by 2, by 3. We'll see where we're at. I'm just trying to, oh, there it is. Oh, right, you have my pencil. That's why I can't find it. Okay. So, got so many things on the run here. Here we are. Read this stuff at the same time. Sorry, guys. We'll get back. So Katrina's earnings over time. Zero, of course, you get $0, right? 1 hour, $12.75. 2 hours, well, that's going to be $25.50. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2. And I'm not. My brain ain't working right now, so let me just see here. 5, 2. So you said 8, 30, 38. Good. Yep. And then this one will be 51. And then lastly, that'll be 63.75. So then on my chart, to graph this, which is B, oh no, it isn't B, but draw, it's still part of A. Draw this on a graph. Well, her pay in dollars. Well, of course, we'll start at 0. And you got to fit at least $65, like just under so. How many squares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What do we suggest? Just going by 10, 20, 30? Is that what you'd think on the side? Sure. Okay. 0. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. I don't need to go higher than that, though. I only marked every second square. I'm just going to graph this. And then on the bottom, we're going to have the time worked, right, in hours? So, obviously 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not that we need to, but 6, 7, 8. You can predict that. Okay. We can go on. Then your next thing is graphing those dots. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to graph your dots. 12.75, 25.50, etc. And make sure that we're up to the same thing. You okay? Your eyes are showing really good in the dark. Preoccupied with the wrong stuff you've done. Okay, so let's just try this. Perfect squares and cubes, right? Okay, do that. Yeah, well, you figured this out. So you know 25 works. Good. And then keep going from there. However you like to do it. I'm going to start putting up some dots here, y'all. I'll use green dots again. 0, 0. 1 and 12.75, so I'm estimating about here. 2 and 25, 50. 3 and 38, 25. 4 and 51. 5 and 63.75. Now I extended my line right through, right? Going further. Because you can. All that means is, I'll just wait for a second. Why did I do that? Just waiting here, okay. If you guys are good on the graph, I'll give you a second. Then I'll talk to you why that happened. Okay. I want you to take a look, if you can. How's your line looking, Tiana? Is it something like this? Are you done up to this point? Jasmine, are you good? You notice how I extended the line beyond 5 hours and $63. All that means is that if I asked you, how long until she earns about $100? You could say, well, $100 is up here. You know, it's going to be about 8 hours. You know, you could quickly answer questions without using a calculator and stuff like that if you have the graph. That's all that would mean. But the next question that we were supposed to look at is, write an equation that describes the relationship between her hours of work and her total earnings. Now, from the last lesson, I'm not going to ask you to write slope if we think back. What is the slope, though? You should be able to tell me what the slope is just by knowing what you multiplied. What did you multiply every time to get her pay? 1275. So it should make sense that if you go up 1275 and over 1 hour, like the slope is 1275, and just look, 1 more hour, up 1275 over 1 hour. And what I wrote down that we're multiplying, 1275 times the h, the hours. You don't actually have to calculate the slope in this case because you knew what the rate of pay was. And do you remember doing examples in the previous section where it was like Anne is working at $12 an hour, you'd graph it, and then after the fact, what is the slope? And it was always the money, right? So that's the same thing here. So the slope is 1275. Write the equation. Actually, I have it here, right? I wrote it out. But the pay, and I think you could have done this without graphing, is 1275 times h, the hours. If you want to use y and x, go ahead, but I prefer using letters like hours and h's and stuff. Do you need a hand for me? This is, are you doing this stuff with us? Okay, I didn't realize. I was talking about, this is all related to the stuff, but yes. I can tell that by how much you were paying attention, obviously. You know what though? I'm going to give this to you, it's good graph exercise, but I'll give Tia a break, she'll have this done. I think I was talking and somebody else was walking in the room. Still looked like I was looking at you when I was talking about that or something. Okay, anyways. Use the equation to calculate what you would earn in 5.5 hours. So use 1275 times h times 5.5. I think you could do that if you like. Put T on. Trick. CD. I don't know what the calculator tells me it is. to be around 70 bucks though, but some cents, I can't tell. Is it? It is 70 bucks. And how many cents? 13. Okay. $70.13 earned in 5.5 hours. Remember how we're going to try to make statements? You guys are going for the 30 level credit here. Okay. Now, is there a question about this? I know it's. Try to always go fast because then you can help the 20s out. Tiana, you good? I know you're good, right? Okay, next page. Partial linear relations. What's that all about? Well, that's when you have a non-zero y-intercept. i.e., or that is to say, that's what i.e. means. B is any number but 0. So this means a highlight.
Hi, you got a second to talk to you, please?
Sure, just a second. I'm going to just pause one thing on here, guys. And, okay, back to that page. The partial variations. Sorry about the interruption there. So this is when the B number, you have something added, like plus 5 at the end or minus 2. Write an equation for a line with the slope of 5 and a y-intercept of 6. So here's what we're saying. Y and x are always the variables. So the y is going to just be like this. Y equals. You follow me on this? So far. Now the letter M is really the slope. I'm told that the slope is 5. So I'm going to put that right there. 5, and then the letter x. And then the y-intercept. So the b value is 6. So that's what I'm going to put last. And it's a positive 6, not a minus 6, so I'll put a plus. So if I just tell you in words, slope is 5, intercept is 6, that's how you come up with the equation. Does that seem simple enough? It's just knowing what M and B stand for. Okay? Good. Now write an equation for a line with a slope of minus 2, and you have to use the correct sign, and a y-intercept of minus 3. Can you guys do that right now? I'll give you a second. It shouldn't take too long. Okay. You already got it? Just with the negative signs, Tiana has it, I hope. Maybe not. I'm going to just flip this thing just so that square goes away. I think it does. Let's go like this. That was bugging. So y equals, let's start this fresh. Y equals mx, well the slope is minus 2, and then x. Then plus b, but in this case the b is a minus 3, right? So I'm going to put subtract 3. You could have said plus negative 3. That works too. So you said y equals negative 2x plus, this is the exact same thing. I just think this one looks simpler, but you don't have to write it like that. You could write it as plus negative 3. Now, does everybody see the connection? Then the next question is, what's the value of x when y is minus 9? That means this is just one particular case. You put minus 9 in for the letter y, when you replace minus 9 there, and then solve for the x value. I'll do that one. Minus 9. You guys remember how to solve for x? I'm going to help you out. I'll make sure Tiana's with me too. Always do addition or subtraction first to get the x alone, then do division or multiplication. Do you know what you do first step? Huh? Do you know what you do first step? It looked like you were going to volunteer an answer. Are you going to ask me a question? No? By the way, you look like you are glowing today. That pregnancy is really going well, eh? Okay. Anyways, what you do is, if this is our equation, does everybody understand where that came from? So if we're subtracting 3, we want to get this, first of all, the minus 2x alone first, and then, well, get minus 2x first, and then letter x. So you do addition or subtraction first. You see that the opposite of minus 3, because you want to get the x thing alone, is add 3. So you undo the minus 3. If you add 3 to that side, you've got to add 3 to this side. Right? What you do to the left is what you do to the right. Then what? Well, negative 9 plus 3. If you're not familiar with integers, negative numbers, use your calculator. But minus 9 plus 3, negative 6 is what you get there. On the right-hand side, you got minus 2x. And remember that minus 3 plus 3 thing zeroed out. So you make zeros. Your next step is to make ones. What do I mean by that? You want one letter x here. So if it's minus 2 times x, how do you undo minus 2 times? You divide it. Now I'm going to show it with a fraction. So divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. So then you've got 6 divided by negative 6 divided by negative 2. 3 is equal to x. I'll give you a chance to practice on those. But if you're looking back at this, there's something you might want to say. Use plus or minus first to get your x thing all alone. Then multiply or divide to get x alone. So when I said earlier, make ones and zeros, or zeros then ones, that's what the plus or minus is. Zero out anything that's beside your x stuff. Then divide out to make 1x as your last step. Okay? That's what what I'm trying to get at there. Zeros then ones. Okay. Am I good to flip? Okay, I want to just see where I'm at. Okay, good. There's only one more thing to look at. Nothing really new here. It's just another problem, a different way of looking at it. V-Crown is a banquet, planning a banquet dinner. The caterer charges a flat fee of $150 plus $420 for each 10 people. $42 a person. Make a table of values that represent the cost of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people attending the banquet. You know what, guys? I'm going to try this with you and see if you're at it. I mean, if we're not, we're not. Do you guys know already what the slope is going to be? Because just think of this. It's $150. With 0 people, if the guy canceled but he showed up, or like the event was canceled, what would that person be guaranteed to be paid just by showing up? Whether there's 100 people or 10 people? $150, right? So does that make sense that that's the intercept, like that's the 0? So let's do D right off the bat right on here. 150 is the intercept. And that's the flat fee. For like when x equals 0, right? What's the slope of the graph and what does it represent? Now we've got to do a little bit of math in our head, but not a lot. For every 10 people, it goes up by 420. So for one person, how much does it go up by? Help me out here. How much per person is? 42, right? Okay, you're on this. Okay. So do you see that because of this information here, the slope of the graph should be $42 like per person. We're going to write this down here, but 42. What is that? The price per person. That's where we got that. 420 for 10 people. Now I know I'm going through this kind of backwards, but if we do C and D, we should be able to do E right off the bat, and then we're going to graph it afterwards. Write an equation that represents the relationship between the cost of the banquet and the number of people. So, the cost of the banquet and the number of people. What do we want to use for the number of people? X or N or what? X, okay. Use the number of people as X. That's what that is. And the cost of the banquet, let's just use C for the cost. That makes sense. So let's write this out here. C equals, well, let's try this mx plus b thing, eh? Our slope is 42, right? Okay, I'll give you a second here and you tell me what the formula is in a second. Can we distract you? Oh, Steve. You're distracting my girls. Okay. Formula. Formalize me. Tiana, do you have a formula for me? What's slope? Mx plus b. So we're going to use thank you. You got a quiet voice. I think you said 42x. And then plus b is really plus the 150 bucks. That's what we're doing here. Now, I know I did this out of order. I just wanted to see if it's maybe tougher or whatever. But instead of, anyways, let's go back then to make a table of values. A. Well, instead of x, oh no, we are using x. Instead of y, we're going to use C for cost. 10, 20, 30, etc. Well, we know at 0 it's 150 bucks. 10 people. 20 people. Let's just skip up to 50 people. Just because time and stuff like this is short. You can use that formula. You can use the old-fashioned figuring out 150 plus 10 people is 420. Wait for some values. So what do we got here? You got some values for me? Oh, come on. Get it working. Tiara, we got a few more things to finish up. You got it for me? Come on. I'm saying I'm waiting for 10. 10 people attend the banquet. Think of it this way. You got 150 bucks guaranteed plus 420 for 10 people. Because 20 people would be 420 and 420 twice, right? So, come up with the first one, 150 plus 420. That should be 570. How about now? 20 more, so 10 more people. I mean, yeah, 20. The last one. 2. I'll do this one. Dollars. Call that X. Maybe I'll put it this way. The squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, Yeah. Yeah. So what's 42 times 20 plus, yeah, what is the, I'm just waiting for you. Yeah, for 20. 990, okay. I believe that. That sounds reasonable. We're going to go all the way up to 2,250. So let's just think of how do we fit, we need to at least fit 2,500 maybe up here. This was 2,500 at the top. Halfway through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half of 2,500 is 1,250. Okay. I think this will work, I think. 1 half of 1,250, and then 1,250 divided by 5 is 250s. Let's go up by 250s, then that tells me. Right? So 250, 500, 750, 1,000. That over so it fits. 1,250. And then 1,500, 1,500, 1,750, 2,000, 2,250, 2,500. Okay, it's trial and error often to figure out how it fits. Now the number of people we want to fit in there is 50 people. Let's go with this. Even though we don't have 5, we'll go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There, we'll use up the full graph. Now, if it's a straight line and if you've done your calculations properly, I'll show you guys a shortcut. Let's take a look up here. Does it make sense if we know this is a straight line? And we know this is 0 and 150. Now, I'm going to estimate that 150 is about here, because the line itself would be 250, right? And I know that 2250 is what it is at 50 people. And that's right here on this line, right? Doesn't it make sense that any other thing you graph should be on that straight line? So as long as you join up the end and the start, the other one should be on there, and you can double check after. That's what I was. A graph like this. Now you can double check though. I'm going to take my 10 and see, does that fall at about 570? By Jove, it does. 20, does that fall at, yeah, it's just, like on this graph, it's hard to tell the difference between 1,000 and 990. That looks right. There you go. We finished this. Now tomorrow, the bell will ring in a minute. Tomorrow, you'll have problems like these to do where you're graphing positives and negative slopes. Tell you sometimes what the ingredients are, slope and intercept, come up with the equation, draw graphs. Well, this one's where you compared 2 different cell phone plans using that kind of stuff and more graphing kind of things. That's what you guys work on tomorrow while I work with the 20 levels, okay? I'm going to just pause or not pause, I'll stop the recording.